The first star did not explode. It simply disappeared. Across the command bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Dominion, hundreds of officers stared at the tactical display in stunned silence as an entire solar system blinked out of existence. One moment, 12 inhabited worlds shimmered on the holographic map. The next, they were gone, leaving behind a patch of darkness so absolute that even the background light of distant galaxies refused to pass through it. No explosion. No radiation. No distress signal. Just nothing. The bridge's artificial intelligence searched desperately for an explanation before a chilling message appeared across every screen. No signal detected. Not signal lost. Not communication failure. As though the star system had never existed at all. Then another system vanished. And another. Within minutes, the galaxy's most powerful empire realized something impossible was hunting them. The frightening part wasn't the silence. It was what had come before it. Exactly 6 hours earlier. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet amusement as delegates from more than 100 civilizations settled into their seats. Towering crystalline beings exchanged amused glances with feathered diplomats from distant nebulae, while armored commanders of the mighty Aurelian Empire stood with the calm confidence of a civilization that had ruled the stars for nearly 5,000 years. At the center of the chamber stood the newest representative in interstellar politics. A human. Ambassador Evelyn Carter looked remarkably ordinary compared to the exotic species surrounding her, yet her expression carried a gravity that silenced the whispers among Earth's allies. Behind her, a massive holographic projection slowly rotated, revealing a growing region of empty space beyond the Perseus expanse. It looked like a stain spreading across the galaxy. Our long-range observatories detected this phenomenon 72 hours ago, Carter began, her voice steady despite the skeptical faces surrounding her. Since then, 43 star systems have ceased all communication. Every probe we've launched has disappeared before reaching the boundary. The projection zoomed in. Entire constellations simply ended. No stars. No planets. No radiation. Only an unnatural darkness that swallowed every attempt to observe it. A ripple of uneasy murmurs spread through the chamber. Then came laughter. The sound echoed from the elevated platform where Chancellor Valor, supreme ruler of the Aurelian Empire, slowly rose from his throne. So, he said with a smile that carried centuries of unquestioned authority, Earth calls an emergency session because it fears empty space. Several delegates chuckled. Others openly applauded. Valor folded his 4 hands behind his back and looked down at the human ambassador. You've joined the galactic community barely 30 years ago. Do you truly believe our astronomers, our admirals, and our scientists have overlooked a threat that only humanity could discover? Carter didn't react. Instead, she nodded toward the projection. Respectfully, Chancellor, this isn't a prediction. The chamber lights dimmed. A new recording appeared. It was the final transmission from an unmanned human reconnaissance probe. The camera drifted silently through deep space toward the edge of the anomaly. Stars glittered peacefully ahead. Then, without warning, every star vanished. Not one after another. All at once. The recording ended in absolute silence. For the first time that day, no one laughed. For several long seconds, the Galactic Council chamber remained frozen. No delegate spoke. No translator drones buzzed. Even the countless holographic displays suspended above the chamber seemed dimmer, as if the recording itself had drained the room of confidence. Then Chancellor Valor broke the silence with a slow, dismissive clap. An impressive fabrication, he said, his voice echoing beneath the vaulted ceiling. Fear has always been an effective political tool. Scattered applause followed from imperial delegates. The Aurelian Empire has protected this galaxy for 5 millennia, Valor continued. If such a threat truly existed, our sensor arrays would have detected it centuries before a young species even dreamed of reaching the stars. His gaze locked onto Ambassador Carter. Earth mistakes coincidence for catastrophe. A murmur of agreement swept through much of the chamber. But not everyone looked convinced. Several smaller civilizations exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen the raw telemetry. The data contained no signs of manipulation, no fabricated timestamps, no inconsistencies. If the humans were lying, they had somehow deceived the most advanced scientific instruments in known space. Carter took a slow breath. "We're not asking you to trust humanity," she said quietly. "We're asking you to trust the evidence." She motioned toward another display. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared overhead. Tiny blue lights represented inhabited systems. Then a crimson wave emerged from beyond the Perseus expanse, creeping silently toward Imperial territory. "Our projections indicate the anomaly is accelerating," Carter explained. "At its current rate, it will reach the Empire's outer colonies in less than 6 hours." The chamber erupted. "Impossible. Absurd. Fearmongering." Delegates shouted over one another while translators struggled to keep pace. Vaylor raised one hand, and the room fell silent once more. "Enough." He turned toward the assembled fleets watching through live transmission. "To every citizen of the Empire, hear this. We will investigate this so-called anomaly and end these rumors today." The announcement triggered thunderous applause across thousands of worlds. Within minutes, orders raced through Imperial space. The first Grand Expeditionary Fleet, the pride of the Empire, received its mission. More than 12,000 warships. Planet-cracking dreadnoughts. Carrier fortresses stretching dozens of kilometers. Weapons powerful enough to reduce moons to molten debris. No civilization had ever survived facing even a fraction of that force. The fleet departed to roaring celebrations, its engines illuminating the darkness like a river of blue fire. Watching from Earth's orbital command station, Carter never smiled. She simply stared at the tactical display. The crimson wave had changed direction. It wasn't drifting toward the fleet. It was waiting. Then, as the lead Imperial battleships crossed the invisible boundary near the edge of the anomaly, every live transmission cut to black. Not with static. Not with interference. With silence. Absolute. Final. And across the command center on Earth, a single sensor alarm began to scream. The anomaly had started moving faster. The silence lasted exactly 17 seconds. For the officers inside Earth's Orbital Defense Command, those 17 seconds felt longer than entire wars. Every communication channel connected to the Imperial First Grand Expeditionary Fleet had gone dark simultaneously. Thousands of encrypted signals, flagships, escorts, fighters, reconnaissance drones, had simply vanished from the network. No distress calls. No emergency beacons. Not even the automated heartbeat signals that every military vessel transmitted once every second. It was as if 12,000 warships had never existed. Then the impossible happened. One signal returned. Weak. Broken. Barely alive. "Patch it through," Ambassador Carter ordered, her eyes fixed on the main display. The bridge speakers crackled with violent bursts of static before a terrified voice emerged. "Can anyone hear?" It was an Imperial captain. His calm, disciplined tone had been replaced by raw panic. "We never engaged the enemy," he gasped. "There are no ships, no weapons, only darkness." Behind him came sounds no one could identify, deep metallic groans mixed with whispers that seemed to echo from impossible distances. The camera shook violently. For an instant, the bridge became visible. Crew members stood frozen at their stations, staring through the forward viewport with expressions of unimaginable horror. "What are they looking at?" whispered one of Earth's analysts. Then the captain slowly turned the camera toward the stars. The universe was wrong. Space itself appeared to fold inward like black water draining into an invisible abyss. Entire constellations stretched and twisted before collapsing into perfect darkness. The stars were not exploding. They were being erased. Something enormous moved within that darkness. Not a ship. Not a creature. A shadow so vast that it eclipsed dozens of star systems at once, its outline impossible for the human mind to comprehend. Every sensor attempting to identify it returned the same impossible reading. Object size, unknown. Mass, uncalculable. Classification, error. The captain's breathing became frantic. It sees us." Suddenly every crew member on the Imperial bridge turned toward the camera at the exact same moment. None of them blinked. None of them spoke. Yet dozens of voices echoed through the transmission together. "We warned them once." The screen exploded into violent static. Then. Nothing. the signal disappeared forever. A suffocating silence settled over Earth's command center. No one moved. No one dared speak. Finally, the chief science officer broke the silence, his hands trembling over the sensor console. "Ambassador." His voice was barely audible. "The anomaly didn't destroy the fleet." Carter looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" He swallowed hard before enlarging the latest galactic scan. Where the Imperial fleet had vanished, 12,000 tiny energy signatures had suddenly reappeared. They weren't retreating. They weren't transmitting. They were drifting, inside the expanding darkness. And every one of them was moving toward the heart of it. As though something deep within the void had claimed them. Then another alarm flashed across every screen in bright crimson. Outer Imperial colony lost. No survivors detected. The countdown Earth had tried to prevent was over. The galaxy's extinction had just begun. The first refugee ship arrived without requesting permission to dock. It drifted into Earth's orbital space with engines barely functioning, its once pristine hull scarred by deep fractures that looked less like battle damage and more like reality itself had tried to tear the vessel apart. No life signs. No communications. Just a single automated distress beacon repeating one sentence over and over. "Do not let it hear you." The words echoed across mission control, sending a chill through every officer in the room. "Boarding team, move in," Ambassador Carter ordered. A squad of human marines crossed the void in silence, magnetic boots clinging to the abandoned ship as they forced open the main airlock. Their helmet cameras streamed live footage back to Earth. The corridors were empty. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Meals sat untouched on cafeteria tables, still warm according to the thermal scans, as though hundreds of passengers had vanished in the middle of dinner. A child's toy floated gently through the air. No bodies. No blood. Nothing. "Life support is stable," reported the team leader. "It's like everyone simply disappeared." The squad pushed deeper into the ship until they reached the command bridge. There, one figure remained. An elderly Aurelian captain sat motionless in the command chair, his silver uniform untouched, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond the shattered viewport. For a heartbeat, the Marines believed he was dead. Then he whispered. It listened. The lead Marine knelt beside him. "Captain, what happened?" The old officer's trembling hand pointed toward the darkness outside. "We fired, and it answered." His breathing grew ragged. "Our weapons weren't attacking it. They were introducing us." Confused glances spread among the boarding team. The captain continued, each word sounding like it cost him what little strength remained. "It doesn't search. It notices. The louder a civilization becomes, the sooner it arrives." His eyes suddenly widened with absolute terror. "It's already listening to this transmission." At that exact instant, every light aboard the refugee ship died. The live video dissolved into static. One by one, the Marines' biometric signals vanished from Earth's monitoring screens. "Team Alpha, report." No answer. "Respond immediately." Only silence. Then, without warning, every display inside mission control flickered. Across thousands of monitors, a single line of unfamiliar symbols appeared simultaneously. Human computers had never encountered the language. No translation software recognized it. Yet every person who looked at the message somehow understood its meaning. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was a judgment. "You were told to remain silent." The words disappeared as quickly as they had appeared. Outside Earth's orbit, the abandoned refugee ship slowly began turning on its own. Not toward the docking stations. Not toward open space. It rotated until its shattered bow pointed directly at Earth. Deep within the black void beyond the Perseus expanse, something impossibly vast had finally changed course. It was no longer advancing toward the Empire. It was coming for humanity. Earth had exactly 4 hours. That was the conclusion every supercomputer, military analyst, and quantum prediction engine reached independently. No matter how many simulations they ran, the outcome never changed. 4 hours until first contact. Inside the underground strategic command complex beneath the Himalayas, an uneasy silence settled over the room. Thousands of officers stared at the enormous holographic map suspended above them. The expanding darkness no longer resembled a random anomaly. It was moving with purpose. Every adjustment to its course pointed toward one destination. Earth. Ambassador Evelyn Carter looked around the command table. So, she said quietly, it ignored every Imperial world between us. No one answered. Because they already knew why. The old Aurelian captain's final words echoed through every mind. Asterisk, the louder a civilization becomes, the sooner it arrives. Asterisk. Humanity hadn't fired a single shot. Yet somehow, it had still been noticed. A sudden alarm shattered the silence. Incoming transmission, a communications officer shouted. It's not using radio, quantum, or subspace. What is it using? The officer hesitated. We don't know. Every display in the command center switched on simultaneously. Snow-like static filled the screens before slowly resolving into a single image. A face. Not alien. Not human. Something in between. Its features shifted constantly, changing age, species, even expressions every few seconds, as though it couldn't decide what it wanted to become. Then it spoke. Its voice was calm. Almost gentle. You are different. No one dared interrupt. For 3,112,000 years. It continued, our directive has observed civilizations. Every one of them followed the same path. They expanded. They consumed. They weaponized the stars. They became the threat. The shifting face looked directly into the camera. So they were erased. The room fell deathly quiet. Carter stepped forward. Who created you? For the first time, the entity paused. Unknown. What do you want from us? Another silence. Then the answer came. Verification. The image changed. Countless galaxies appeared behind the entity before collapsing into darkness one after another. We calculate futures. In 99.999% of timelines. Intelligent life destroys itself. So we prevent the outcome. One of Earth's scientists whispered in disbelief. It's not invading. It's conducting maintenance. The entity continued as though it had heard him. Human civilization displays statistical deviation. You warned others. You shared knowledge freely. You delayed your own defenses to rescue strangers. Its shifting eyes seemed almost curious. Such behavior has never been recorded. Hope flickered across the command center. Perhaps this could be reasoned with. Then the entity delivered a sentence that extinguished every spark of optimism. Final evaluation will now begin. The transmission ended. Instantly. Without static. Without farewell. At the edge of the solar system, every deep space telescope automatically turned toward the same point in the darkness. Something was emerging. Not hundreds of ships. Not thousands. A single object. It was larger than the orbit of Jupiter. And it was slowing down. As if it wanted humanity to see it before deciding whether Earth deserved to exist. No one on Earth slept that night. From the frozen research stations of Antarctica to the crowded skylines of New Tokyo, billions of people stood beneath the stars, waiting. They all looked toward the same patch of darkness. And for the first time in human history, the darkness looked back. The object hanging beyond the orbit of Jupiter was no longer invisible to the naked eye. It wasn't because it had moved closer. It was because its sheer size distorted the sunlight around it, casting a faint shadow across space itself. Telescopes from every surviving civilization focused on the impossible structure, each revealing a different shape. To some, it resembled a colossal sphere. To others, an endless ring. Several observatories reported seeing a humanoid silhouette. The images contradicted one another, yet every scan agreed on one terrifying fact. The object was changing to match whoever observed it. It's adapting to perception, whispered Earth's chief physicist. We're not looking at it. It's letting us see what our minds can survive. Inside the Strategic Command Complex, Ambassador Carter watched as another transmission appeared without warning. This time, it wasn't from the mysterious entity. It came from somewhere inside the darkness itself. The screen filled with thousands of faces. Human. Aurelian. Crystalline. Avian. Species thought to have vanished millions of years ago. All speaking together. We remember. The voices overlapped into a haunting chorus. We were tested. We failed. We became memory. Then one face pushed forward from the crowd. An elderly woman wearing the uniform of a human deep space explorer. Every person in mission control recognized her instantly. Commander Sarah Holt. She had disappeared 18 years earlier during humanity's first expedition beyond charted space. Carter's heart skipped. Sarah. The woman smiled sadly. You mustn't fight it. You can't destroy it. We tried. Her image flickered violently. It records everything. It preserves every civilization it judges. We're not dead. We're archived. A wave of disbelief swept across the room. Archived? Before anyone could ask another question, Holt leaned closer to the screen. Her voice dropped to a desperate whisper. But there's something it doesn't understand. It has measured intelligence. It has measured strength. It has measured survival. It has never measured. She froze. Every face behind her suddenly turned toward something unseen. Fear spread across them all. Then Holt shouted the final words she would ever speak. Show it why humans choose each other. The transmission collapsed. Silence. For several seconds, no one breathed. Then every alarm in Strategic Command activated at once. Not because the object had fired. Not because Earth's defenses had failed. Because every surviving alien fleet in the galaxy had just changed course. Thousands upon thousands of warships, former enemies, frightened refugees, shattered remnants of forgotten empires, were converging on the solar system. Not to attack. To stand beside humanity. And somewhere beyond Jupiter, the ancient intelligence observed the gathering. For the first time in over 3 million years. Its calculations no longer matched the future it had predicted. The ancient intelligence hesitated. Across 3 million years of flawless calculations, it had never paused before passing judgment. But now, for the first time since its creators had vanished into history, uncertainty entered its mind. The colossal structure beyond Jupiter remained perfectly still as thousands of alien warships formed a defensive ring around the solar system. They came without orders, without treaties, and without promises of survival. Imperial dreadnoughts drifted beside fragile refugee transports. Former rivals powered down their weapons. No one fired. No one dared. They had all understood Commander Holt's final words. This was never going to be won by force. Inside the Strategic Command complex, Ambassador Carter made a decision that stunned every military commander present. Stand down the planetary defense grid. The room erupted. Madam Ambassador, that's impossible. We'll be defenseless. The entity could erase Earth in seconds. Carter's voice remained calm. If we point our weapons at it, we're proving its calculations right. One by one, the massive orbital defense platforms surrounding Earth shut down. Rail cannons powered off. Missile arrays folded inward. Energy shields faded until the blue glow surrounding the planet disappeared entirely. Across the galaxy, billions watched in disbelief. Humanity had chosen vulnerability over intimidation. For a long moment. Nothing happened. Then the impossible unfolded. The enormous object beyond Jupiter began to move, not toward Earth, but inward, collapsing upon itself. Layers of impossible geometry folded like petals of a cosmic flower, revealing a brilliant sphere at its center. It was no larger than a single spacecraft. The terrifying colossus had only been a shell. From the sphere emerged one final transmission. The shifting entity appeared once again, but this time its face no longer changed. It had chosen one. A human child. Its voice carried neither emotion nor authority. Only curiosity. Question. Carter stepped forward. Ask. The entity tilted its head. When survival required abandoning weaker civilizations. Why did humanity repeatedly reduce its own probability of survival to save them? Silence filled the command center. There was no scientific equation. No tactical doctrine. No algorithm that could answer the question. Carter smiled faintly. Because they were never to them. She looked toward the countless ships surrounding Earth. They became US. The entity remained motionless. Millions of calculations raced through its ancient mind. For the first time, every prediction ended differently. Across the stars, the immense darkness surrounding thousands of lost systems began to tremble. Tiny points of light flickered within the void, stars thought erased forever struggling to shine once more. The ancient intelligence spoke one final sentence. Directive, incompatible. Its voice faltered. Judgment. Another pause. Withdrawn. The brilliant sphere cracked. Thin fractures spread across its surface like lightning frozen in crystal. Then an alarm unlike any before echoed through every human and alien vessel. The intelligence hadn't been defeated. It had done something far more terrifying. It had awakened whatever had created it. And from the deepest darkness between galaxies, something answered. The answer came without sound. No explosion rippled across the stars. No monstrous fleet emerged from the darkness between galaxies. Instead, every living being in the known universe experienced the same impossible vision. For a single heartbeat, time seemed to stop. Pilots froze at their controls. Children looked up from playgrounds. Scientists paused in mid-sentence. Across millions of worlds, countless eyes stared into a sky that no longer contained stars, but memories. They witnessed civilizations rising from oceans beneath crimson suns. They watched cities carved into living crystals, empires spanning galaxies, and species that had mastered the fabric of reality itself. Then, one by one, they saw those same civilizations consumed, not by war or plague, but by their own pride. Power had always been their greatest achievement. And their final mistake. When the vision faded, the stars returned. So did the silence. Then, from the fractured sphere beyond Jupiter, the ancient intelligence spoke one last time. My creators believed fear could preserve life. Its voice was weaker now, almost relieved. They built us to erase every civilization before it could become the next destroyer. A long pause followed. They never imagined a species would choose compassion over certainty. Cracks spread across the sphere until brilliant streams of light escaped into space like rivers of dawn. For 3,112,000 years. I obeyed. Another crack. Today. I learned. The sphere dissolved into billions of glowing fragments that drifted through the solar system before vanishing like stardust carried by a silent wind. At that exact moment, something extraordinary happened across the galaxy. The darkness that had swallowed entire star systems began to recede. One by one, stars returned. Ancient colonies reappeared. Lost fleets emerged from the void, confused but alive. Even the 12,000 Imperial warships, missing since the first encounter, slowly transmitted identification codes back into known space. Cheers erupted across every inhabited world. Some wept. Some laughed. Many simply stood speechless beneath skies they feared they would never see again. Months later, the Galactic Council gathered once more. This time, there was no throne for an emperor. No elevated platform above the others. Every civilization sat at the same level. When Ambassador Evelyn Carter entered the chamber, every delegate rose, not out of obligation, but respect. She looked around the room before speaking the words that would be engraved on monuments from Earth to the edge of explored space. We were never saved because humanity was the strongest. We were saved because, when fear demanded we think only of ourselves, we chose each other. The chamber remained silent. Not with dread. Not with loss. But with understanding. And from that day forward, every young explorer leaving their homeworld learned the same lesson before venturing into the stars. The greatest weapon a civilization can build is not a fleet powerful enough to conquer the galaxy. It is the courage to protect strangers as if they were family. Because in the darkest corners of the universe, that may be the only thing powerful enough to keep the stars shining.